Bronny James isn't in the NBA because of talent, he's there because of the system. A 55th pick, stepping onto the court on opening night while better players rot on the bench. And if his last name wasn't James, would he even get drafted? This isn't just one player's story, this is about the NBA's fairness, its credibility, its soul. And in 5 minutes, I'll show you something the league doesn't want you to see.
When he was like 5 or 6 years old, I just told him in the locker room before we came out, and he was playing on the Little League Tiny Tots league in our hometown of Akron, Ohio. And I think he was like 5 or 6 years old, and he did something. He had grabbed a rebound and like drove, coast to coast through the lane through a couple of the other kids, and like laid it up and had a little trot back. And I looked over at his mom, and I was like, "Oh, he's special. Like he's special." She was like, "What? He's 5 years old. Like, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "I've seen this before. Like I know I've seen this before." All the way to the point where he gets drafted, and I brought that back to his mom, and she was like, "I remember you said that in 12 years."
For decades, the NBA has witnessed its share of questionable moments, missed draft picks, confusing front office choices, and veterans holding on longer than expected. But the situation surrounding Bronny James feels unlike anything we've seen in recent years. A player selected 55th overall stepping onto the court on opening night raised eyebrows, especially when reports suggested it was more of a favor than a basketball decision, while much of the media treated it as completely normal when it clearly wasn't. It naturally leads to an uncomfortable question: if his last name were different, would he still be in the league today? Strip everything down, and the answer many hesitate to admit becomes hard to ignore. Bronny's presence in the NBA doesn't appear to be driven by his draft position, his college performance, or overwhelming confidence from scouts during his time at USC, but rather by the influence and legacy of his father, which played a defining role in opening that door.
Bronny! Knock down. Great shot.
His place in the league didn't happen in isolation, it came together because LeBron James openly wanted to share the court with his son, because Clutch Sports Group held significant influence within the Los Angeles Lakers, and because the NBA saw more value in promoting a historic father-son storyline than strictly protecting competitive standard. This isn't just speculation or a bold opinion, it reflects how the situation actually unfolded. Those who pointed it out early were labeled as negative or disrespectful, yet over time, events have only strengthened their argument. To understand how it all began, you have to rewind to the NBA Summer League 2024, where Jaylen Brown, sitting courtside, was overheard sharing a straightforward assessment: he simply didn't believe Bronny was ready for the professional level. That was the entirety of it, one simple remark. It wasn't meant as an insult or a personal shot, just a straightforward evaluation from Jaylen Brown after watching another player on the court. But the response from LeBron James's circle came fast and felt far bigger than the comment itself. Almost overnight, Brown was painted as the villain, with his words being twisted into something far more serious, labeled as disrespectful, disloyal, even an unfair attack on a young player still finding his way. The situation escalated to the point where Brown felt the need to walk it back, offering a statement that sounded more like damage control than a genuine apology. For a brief moment, it looked like the controversy would fade away and be forgotten.
Our relationship has been, pretty respectful. Besides the shit he said about Bronny at Summer League. But other than that,
you guys were able to get
other than that, we've been all right.
Were you guys able to get past that?
We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Even 2 years later, LeBron James was still circling back to that same moment, repeatedly bringing up what Jaylen Brown said during Summer League as if it were something that never really faded. The way it lingered made one thing clear: the foundation of the Bronny narrative wasn't as solid as it was being presented. When a comment continues to bother someone for that long, it usually means it struck a nerve because there was some truth behind it. Around the league, many understood that Brown's observation wasn't random or baseless, it reflected what people were quietly thinking. After all, criticism that isn't true rarely sticks this deeply, but when it is, it becomes much harder to ignore. Now, shifting focus to the actual on-court performance, Bronny James's freshman season at University of Southern California painted a concerning picture. Averaging just 5 points per game on a struggling team in a relatively weaker conference, he didn't make a strong offensive impact. His shooting wasn't reliable, and instead of being a go-to option, he often blended into the background. On most nights, he wasn't even the standout player on his own roster. Despite all of this, he still declared for the draft and was picked 55th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers, the same franchise his father played for, and one that had clear personal and business reasons to make the father-son storyline a reality, regardless of whether his performance truly justified the opportunity.
With the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Bronny James from the University of Southern California.
Being selected 55th overall places a player firmly in the second round, a range typically reserved for prospects who are far from guaranteed NBA roles. These players are usually viewed as long-term projects or role-specific talents who must prove themselves through training camps and time in the G League before earning meaningful minutes. Rarely do they step straight into real game action, especially not on opening night against top-level competition. Yet Bronny James found himself in that exact spotlight, not because he dominated in preseason or forced the coaching staff's hand with undeniable performance. It wasn't a strategic basketball decision based on matchups or form, and it's hard to believe that J.J. Redick simply saw something on film that justified putting a second-round pick with modest college numbers into that moment. Instead, the decision appeared driven by the bigger picture, the cameras, the narrative, and the historic appeal of a father and son sharing the court. That storyline carried immense promotional value, and in that moment, it seemed to outweigh traditional basketball logic. It marked a point where the league, at least briefly, felt less like a competition decided purely by merit and more like a stage where storytelling and spectacle took center priority.
Ginny Bus crumbled to her board of directors that she thought LeBron James' ego was completely out of control from the day he became a Laker. That LeBron James was not grateful that the Lakers drafted Bronny for him.
Jeannie Buss unintentionally revealed more than expected when reports surfaced that she felt unappreciated after drafting LeBron James's son, describing the move as a favor. That single word exposed the underlying reality. Teams don't frame draft decisions that way unless something beyond pure basketball evaluation is involved. In that moment, what critics had been saying all along suddenly carried more weight. At the center of these discussions was Clutch Sports Group, the agency representing LeBron, which was widely believed to hold significant influence within the Los Angeles Lakers organization during that period. Reports hinted at internal discomfort, suggesting that decision-making may not have been entirely independent, and that expectations of loyalty and gratitude were quietly shaping moves behind the scenes. All of this points to a process that extended beyond standard basketball logic. In the end, however, the person most affected by these circumstances is Bronny James himself, who now faces constant scrutiny and lingering doubts about whether he truly earned his place. Unlike others who followed the traditional route, such as Ron Harper Jr., who spent years developing his game and steadily improving, or Dylan Harper, who built his reputation through strong performances, Bronny's journey skipped key stages of growth. That usual path of gradual development, where players refine their skills and prove themselves over time, was shortened, largely due to external pressures and timing. Even comparisons to Carmelo Anthony's son, who was progressing through college basketball in a more conventional way, highlight the difference in approach. Ultimately, this situation goes beyond one player. It reflects what can happen when business interests, personal goals, and media narratives begin to outweigh merit-based system. The league had clear financial and promotional incentives to bring the LeBron-Bronny storyline to life, but in doing so, it created a situation where the usual standards of evaluation were blurred, leaving lasting questions about fairness and opportunity. The decision to draft Bronny James wasn't driven by basketball readiness, it was shaped by a tangle of interests. The Los Angeles Lakers had reasons to maintain relationships, LeBron James wanted his son on the court, and Clutch Sports Group had leverage to exercise. None of these factors had anything to do with whether Bronny was actually prepared to compete at the professional level. The result placed him under intense scrutiny, in front of cameras that magnified every mistake, leaving the question of his legitimacy as the lens through which his career would be judged, regardless of how he develops from here. Early voices, like Jaylen Brown, were right to question it, and Ron Harper was clear in saying opportunity should come through merit, not influence. Fans who raised these concerns from day one were also justified. Meanwhile, media outlets insisting Bronny earned his spot were bending the truth to fit the league's preferred narrative, a pattern of compliance that has done more damage than the player himself ever could. The real harm lies in the system pretending that emperor has clothes, while a 55th overall pick with modest college stats is elevated into the spotlight. Merit-based credibility is essential in the NBA, and when it is sacrificed for spectacle, everyone who earned their spot the hard way is devalued by comparison. Even 2 years later, with Bronny still struggling to prove himself, Jeannie Buss's words on record, and LeBron still reacting to Summer League remarks from 2024, the situation hasn't grown simpler, it's become more transparent. The truth is everywhere. Brown said it openly, Harper quietly acknowledged it, Buss accidentally confirmed it, and the on-court basketball reinforced it each time the cameras rolled. The Bronny saga was never about basketball alone, it was about influence, narrative, and spectacle overshadowing merit.